Hey guys, so I have a lot to accomplish with this video today. First of all, I owe you an explanation, update kind of thing for what's going on around here, and also just an apology. But then I also wanted to use this opportunity to catch up and to talk about the two books that we were reading for our book club. So I'm going to talk about Sorcery of Thorn and Ninth House today. I'll leave timestamps down if you just want to skip to one or the other of the books. But first, let me give you like a little bit of an update. These past couple of months have been crazy for a lot of different reasons, and I'm not here to just like list excuses, but the gist of it is that I just like overextended myself and put too many things on my plate, and unfortunately this ended up being the one that suffered. And so I've decided to pause this for November, so no one's gonna get billed for November while I catch up and kind of reevaluate my schedule and how much I can handle with everything that I want to do. And that doesn't mean like I'm necessarily getting rid of this, but I might restructure it in a way or something. So basically I'm giving myself the month of November to kind of figure out what I want to do. So you're not going to be billed for November, there's not going to be anything happening on here, but I did want to, you know, catch up with the things that I was behind on, which is why we're going to talk about the two books today. The live shows I really love doing. They're just hard, you know, scheduling wise and everything. So, and then on top of like the 4 jobs that I work and stuff, I'm also going through like a moving process again, and moving is such a pain. And then I'm also doing like NaNoWriMo and trying to write my book and stuff. So it's just been a lot going on at once, and I think I just overestimated how much I would be able to get done. But anyway, let's start with Sorcery of Thorns, because that one, I really wish I would have just filmed a book talk for this or something, because it's been so long that it's not like fresh in my head anymore. I did try and like refresh myself before this video, but let's start and we'll talk about this book first. I know this isn't like the same kind of environment as a live show, but I would still really like to hear what you guys thought of it in the comments and still kind of have a discussion down there. So my overall opinion of this is that I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I'm not sure if it's just because I wasn't like in the right mood to read it because I listened to it on audiobook, or just because I had such high expectations going into it because of the hype. And I've been going back and forth like trying to put my finger on exactly why I didn't love it. And I think it's just one of those cases where it just didn't have that spark for me. I still really enjoyed it, and my favorite thing 100% is the world building. I think it's a very unique fantasy world, and I don't know, I feel like fantasy more than any other genre in YA tends to be repetitive with the worlds. Like the stories and the characters might be different, but they're pretty much interchangeable within the different worlds. I didn't feel that way about this one at all. Like it was so unique having these libraries and the sorcerers and the laws, and how like the sorcerers were not allowed to handle the libraries, and that's why we needed the wardens. And then just like even all of the little relationships and like how the demons work and how they partner up with sorcerers and things like that. I just thought it was all very well thought out, and honestly I want to reread this book because I feel like I'm gonna pick up more on it rereading it than I caught the first time around. I enjoyed our main character. I know a lot of people were really excited that she was tall. That's really not something that we see in young adult a lot. And I also liked her sense of humor and just sort of self-confidence, because I consider her to be a very strong female character, but it's not the typical like snarky, almost mean main character that we see a lot in young adult right now. And she's not like this badass assassin or whatever. She just seems like a genuinely like nice, good person, and she's also like really strong and stuff, and I just really liked her as a human being. Like I want to be friends with her. Also, talking about the characters, what did you guys think of Nathaniel? I personally really liked Nathaniel, and then when I started looking at other reviews and stuff, everyone was like, I don't care about Nathaniel, I only like Silas. And we'll get to Silas in a second. I still liked Silas, but I think you guys are not appreciating Nathaniel. He was funny, he was witty, and a gentleman. And honestly, I think I liked him so much because I got like Will Herondale vibes from him. He made me want to reread The Infernal Devices, but I thought he was just so like genuine and earnest and witty, and I just really liked him as a love interest. I honestly wish we could have gotten to know more about him. His backstory, tragic. I'm a sucker for it. His like devotion to Silas, even though he knows that Silas like can't really love him back, but he still has this like undying faith in Silas, and he's basically just like, I understand that he can't love me back the same way, but I'm cool with it. And I thought, okay, now I'm talking about Silas. This is why I don't do book talks anymore, because I get so like scatterbrained and like jumping from one subject to another. But I thought it was very interesting the like totally opposite personalities that we saw with Silas, from when he was like in the house with Nathaniel like joking about folding laundry or whatever, and then when he is in the, I can't even like think of the right word, the like ritual to try and summon him back, and how he's like a completely different creature who like doesn't recognize them, and he's cruel and everything. And I thought that was so interesting for her to show us, because I feel like demons in books are common in YA now. Like we do that all the time, especially with paranormal romance. We've got, you know, people falling in love with every kind of supernatural creature, but very few series actually like portray them as the way that you would assume something that's not human to behave. That's something that I really like about like Holly Black's books, and how like the Fae aren't just like nice human beings because they're not human. And I always think it's interesting to see that portrayal of how another species or whatever behaves. Some people like complain about that and how they're like not good people or whatever, but I think that's more authentic to me than reading this demon that's just like acts like a human being, if that made any sense. So basically I'm saying that I liked that. The reveal at the end and how we find out that they were basically using the directors of the libraries to self-sabotage themselves. I loved that twist. I thought that was so smart. And then we have Ashcroft, who is just, I'm trying to think of who he reminds me of. Did he remind you guys of someone else in another story in like a similar situation? How he went through with summoning this demon like so certain that it was gonna go his way, and he was just stupid because obviously you like can't control the demon. I feel like this exact scenario happened in another book and I'm struggling to remember what it was, and it's driving me crazy. It was like a villain who like summoned something thinking they could control it and then they couldn't. Oh, it's bothering me. But I would definitely say overall, I really enjoyed this one. I think this was a great book club pick. I can't remember who suggested this, but thank you. I definitely think I want to reread it. I think I'll get more out of it if I read it a second time, and I want to physically read it. This is one that I don't think I would recommend the audiobook for, just because it was so easy to like not pay attention and not pick up on things. And this book is so well thought out and plotted and stuff that I wish I hadn't missed all of those little things while reading it. And it's interesting that she decided not to go with a sequel. Like I can appreciate that because I feel like every YA fantasy book turns into a series at this point. But this world is so well thought out and I feel like she could do so much more with this. Maybe we'll end up getting a sequel down the road. You know, some authors end up doing that. But I'm surprised that that wasn't the move because she could have easily milked a series out of this story. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about this one. If I had filmed this a month ago, I probably would have remembered more to talk about. But if you guys can think of any other like things you wanted to talk about, feel free to like leave them down below. We can have a discussion down there as well. This is the caveat of not having the live show setting, but I did just finish Ninth House recently, so it's very fresh in my mind. I have a lot to say. Let's jump to that one. I'm very interested to see what your opinions were of this and whether you liked it or not, because I did not expect to see the mixed reviews that I did. I really liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, but I was looking at all of the people that I follow on Goodreads and so many people didn't like this book. And Twitter. I saw a lot of discourse on Twitter and how people were like, this is so boring, this is so overrated. And it seemed to go one way or another. People either really loved it or just like could not get into it at all. And then we have people like Stephen King blurbing it, saying this is the best fantasy he's read in years. So that's funny. There's a blurb from Charlene Harris. Didn't she write the Sookie Stackhouse books? That's an odd pick. Yeah, I actually just finished filming my wrap up for this month, so I was literally just talking about this book. But okay, so there's a couple of different points that I wanted to talk about for sure. I want to know what you guys thought of the way it was written, with the different timelines and how you felt about that. I wanted to talk about Darlington as a character. I want to talk about any theories you have of where you think this is going to go moving forward, because this is a series. I know the second book is for sure confirmed, but Leigh Bardugo has said she wants to write 5 books at least in this series. So I'm interested to see where the series is going to go, and also how she's going to write the second book in such a way that it needs to be a satisfying conclusion if this does end up being a duology, but she also needs to leave it open-ended enough to see if the publisher will pick it up to get a longer series. So how is she going to balance a satisfying ending with also keeping it open to continue the series? I'd like to talk about Alex as a character. I feel like I should be an English teacher. And honestly, I think one of the most obvious things that we should talk about is all of the triggers in this book and kind of just like how that was handled in the community. I don't know if you guys are on book Twitter, if you saw all of that almost like controversy and whether or not you thought they were handled well in the book. So let's start with that. Let's start there. So obviously there's a lot of like iffy material in here, and so I didn't have an arc of this book, so I didn't read it until it came out, but a lot of the people that I follow had arcs. Reading their reviews leading up to this and then all of the chaos that ensued on Twitter upon that whole situation, and people were making it sound like this book was like satanic and like horrible and insensitive and like no one should read it because it's so triggering and it's so terrible, and like they made it sound like it was gonna be ghoulish or something, like Leigh Bardugo was just like doing, I don't even know what she could have done to spark that kind of reaction that would have made me feel like it was so unnecessary, I suppose. And then I read this book and I'm just like, what the heck were you guys talking about? Like, I didn't find anything wrong with this book. I don't mean like there's not triggers in here, and I don't mean that she shouldn't have trigger warnings on her books. I think that's something that every book could adopt. It's something that's easy to do and it helps out other people. I'm not arguing against that, but the whole, like, people were literally arguing that she should not have had certain elements in the stories because they were so triggering. Like, they should not have even been in the book. Like, obviously I didn't enjoy reading about Alex getting sexually assaulted by a gray. Like, that was so disturbing to me, but I didn't think it was done in an insensitive way, and I think it was really important to her character and showing like just how, I don't know, unfair it was that no one came to help her and tell her about the grays, and how scared she'd been her entire life because she felt so out of control with them. I guess that's a good segue. Like, let's talk about these people who watched her entire life and no one thought, oh, maybe we should go help this poor girl who doesn't know a single thing about how to keep these ghosts away from her. That was so upsetting to me. It felt like, I really hope I'm not spoiling someone right now. It felt like the whole like Dumbledore Harry Potter thing. I have my issues with Dumbledore and Harry Potter's relationship and how they basically like raised up Alex and like kept her at a distance and watched her so that they could use her for their purpose and then like get rid of her when they were done. And that just made me really angry. I've heard other people say that they didn't like Alex's character and that she like wasn't well developed enough, or that she didn't have enough motivation, I suppose, was a big complaint that I saw. So I wonder what you guys thought of that. I feel like, I don't know, while I was reading, that never stuck out to me. I never felt like, why is Alex doing this? Like, it seemed pretty obvious why Alex was doing everything. I was like, oh, I'm just going along with it. But I can see where that complaint is coming from. Like, other than her, this being her like job, she has no obligation to this society. She didn't grow up in this world. She doesn't really understand or really care about the consequences of the societies not functioning as they usually do. Like, she doesn't care if these rich alumni lose a bunch of money because this person's not digging around in someone's intestines. Also, I have like a severe fear of surgery and things like that. And so like reading about this man unknowingly submitting to this surgery, oh, it was so upsetting to me. And then we learned about the groom bride. He got like possessed by that man who woke up in the middle of surgery. That's literally like my worst fear. That was so creepy to me. Oh my god, I can't even remember what topic we started talking about and I just like bounced off into like 5 different places. I think you're getting a very accurate representation of which way, how my mind works. So yeah, let's talk about Darlington. He was my favorite character in the book. I think he's meant to be. For most people, I think she kind of did that on purpose. I definitely got like Darkling vibes from him. A lot of people have compared him to being Gansey from the Raven Cycle. And my issue with Darlington is that we didn't see enough of him. We didn't learn enough about him. And this comes back to the way that she chose to write it with the 2 different timelines. I felt like I would have preferred it written chronologically. I just feel like we would have gotten to know the characters better. We would have learned about the societies alongside Alex. We would have seen her relationship with Darlington develop from the start instead of just like jumping back and forth. I don't know. I didn't like the way it was told. I wished it was chronological. And I just felt like I never got to know as much about Darlington as I wanted to. I felt like he had so much potential. He was such an interesting character, and also just like, he was cool. And I'm interested to see where that whole him being in hell thing goes with the sequel, definitely. But I feel like, how is she going to develop his character more in the second book, considering his circumstances? The first book was the time to do it, and I feel like we just know the bare minimum about him, and I want to know more, and I want to spend more time with him, but I want to spend more time with normal human him. So that was my biggest grievance with this book, was there was not enough Darlington, and I didn't get to see their relationship develop the way that I wanted it to. I also feel like if she'd written this chronologically, it would have been a lot less confusing. And I personally actually wasn't as confused as I thought I was going to be. Everyone was talking about how they were so confused for the first 100 pages, so I went into this expecting to not know what the heck was going on. And I caught on pretty quickly. I think that might also be because some people, if you're not from the United States and you're not familiar with like the whole sorority fraternity thing, the idea of these societies might be even more foreign to you, because they're not like fraternities or sororities, but they're close enough that I had like a reference point, and so it kind of made sense to me. But then I was reading a lot of reviews from people who are not from the United States who were like, I don't understand what the heck this society is. So if you don't even have like that reference point, maybe that would be more confusing. I don't know if any of you guys are not from the US, if you could speak to that, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. And I found it so sad that Alex was literally on drugs her entire life just because that was the only thing that kept the Greys away from her. Like, can you imagine being so desperate for some peace and to just be alone and to not be afraid all the time that you just like constantly keep yourself in this fog of drugs? I don't know why, that just was really, really sad to me. And then of course coming with that, like people like look down on you and they think bad things about you because you're doing drugs and stuff, and they have no idea that you're just doing it to try and be more normal. Oh my god, we have to talk about the drug. The drug that these stupid boys were basically giving to girls to make them like completely compliant and do whatever they wanted. Terrifying. Like a terrifying idea. It's not even like they're drugging you so then you're like unconscious and then they can do whatever they want to you. They're drugging you to make you eager to please them and do anything that they want you to do. Like, I cannot even, like, that was so disturbing to me. What's even more disturbing is the fact that you are conscious and aware of it happening. Like, you're eager to please, but you also like know in the back of your mind that you don't want to be doing this, and you remember it afterwards. I was so upset by this. I was just so upset. All of the poor girls in this book, I just wanted to hug everyone and I wanted to punch everyone. And then we have the reveal at the end with Alex's teacher. Did anyone see that coming? I feel like I'm usually pretty good at guessing twists, but I had no freaking clue that Daisy was this like soul-hungry Grey hopping from body to body, possessing Alex's teacher. That one got me. I liked it. It was good. And it made a lot of sense once I started thinking about it. But I liked that we learned that there were other people like Alex and that Alex can do other things. So I definitely think that's something obviously that's going to come up a lot more in the sequel, and how we'll see Alex kind of learning all of the extent of what she can do and all of her different like powers, I suppose. So I'm definitely interested to see and learn more about what Alex is capable of. I want Darlington to just be okay. I want it to be like just kidding, he's fine, we're good, there's some way to undo this, we'll go back to normal. I just want Darlington to be okay. I'm very excited for the sequel. That's the problem with reading books when they're first released. Now I have to wait so freaking long for the sequel, and by the time that one comes out, I'm gonna have forgotten everything about this book. This is why my reading life when I was first getting into reading was so simple, because all of the series I was reading were already all out and I could just marathon the whole thing. And what's really sad is, I don't know if you stay caught up with authors and their personal lives and stuff, but Leigh Bardugo said that this book was like her way to cope with her own traumas, which makes honestly the things that people were saying even more disgusting. The fact that they were telling her she had no right to write these things, that she shouldn't have put this in the book when this was her dealing with her own trauma, this was her way of dealing with her own trauma. That just made me really mad that people were like inserting themselves into something like that. I thought it was handled well. I can see why a lot of people wouldn't want to read this book, because there's just like so many things in here that could be really upsetting to people. But like telling other people not to read it because of its content, I don't know. I just felt like gross about that whole situation, because it wasn't just like someone said that in their review. It was like a witch hunt going on Twitter, and people were like tagging the author and like attacking the author and like telling the publisher that they made a mistake, and like telling the publisher you need to put trigger warnings in this book. Do that. Yelling at the author for not having the trigger warnings. She has no control over that. Sorry, this is like bringing up a whole thing. It was just on my mind reading this book. So yeah, please leave down below in the comments what you thought of either of these books. I would love to go down there and discuss this with you guys. I'm sorry again that I didn't have a chance to do a live show for either of these. Let me know what you think, if you want to continue the book club and instead of doing live shows we just do a book talk kind of like this. I was thinking I could do like a reading vlog for the book and film my reactions as I read. Obviously you don't have to worry about spoilers if you're also reading the book. Or maybe just wait a little bit longer until NaNoWriMo's done, until I'm finished moving and everything and my life gets back into like a normal routine and I have the time to like actually do the live shows again. I don't know, I'm sorry. I didn't expect my life to get like super busy, and I didn't expect to not be able to keep up with everything that I had planned to, and I really hate not keeping up with everything and letting people down. So I'm really sorry if you feel like let down that this did not go as it was supposed to. But I hope you enjoyed this video and talking about the books with me. Like I said, Patreon's on pause for all of November, so none of you are going to get charged or anything like that. And if I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do before then, I will also put it on pause before December. I promise no one is going to be charged before I figure this out. But thank you for your patience. Thank you for being understanding. Honestly, I wouldn't have blamed you if you guys were like yelling at me or something, but you've all been very patient with me. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the video. Thanks for hanging out with me and discussing, and thanks for being here in the first place. See you guys later.